The SEC approving the application of the long-term stock exchange out on the West Coast. It will become the 14th national security exchange in the U.S. The goal of the new exchange is to incentivize companies to pursue long-term goals over short-term profits. The question is, how do they plan to do that? Joining me now is Ries, the founder and CEO of the long-term stock exchange. Eric, welcome and congrats.
Hey, thanks a lot, Kelly. Thanks for having me.
So the interesting thing about tell us first what the proposals are to make this more long-term oriented.
Sure. So we're America's newest stock exchange as of Friday, so we're just at the very beginning of this journey. But the idea is that for this next generation of companies, they and their employees and their communities, they want something different, from our capital market system. They want to be able to think in terms of decades and generations. They want to have better engagement with their long-term investors, who we call the citizens of the republic, not just the tourists who are trading in and out. So we will have a set of standards and disclosures, obviously subject to regulatory approval, that will have companies explain, to the public, to their investors, well, what are you doing to make long-term strategic decisions? How is that factored into your decision-making process? How do you reward shareholders for being long-term partners for you? And then how do you take into account the effects that your company has on your critical stakeholders, on your employees, on your communities, on your partners? How do we know that you're going to create shareholder value by serving your customers, not just by exploiting them?
Okay, so in the approval here, you don't actually have any of those structures yet. Is that right? So you've approved to become another exchange. But tell us about the next steps in this process. What happens if the SEC says, we're not going to approve you with those different kinds of strategies?
I'm not too worried about that because we went through a very similar process with them last year, so we have a good sense of how they feel about it. But yes, this is the first step. So the way that the exchange approval process works, it's not a fast process. We've been working with the regulators on this for about 3 years. And this is, a very important milestone. We're obviously very pleased with how it's gone. But there's a series of technical filings that have to happen next. We have to get our technical architecture approved. We have to get our fees approved. We have to get the next listing standards approved. So we've been yeah, go ahead.
Will you only open for business if they approve it with all of what you want to do?
That's actually not how it works. So first we'll begin by trading stocks that are listed on other exchanges. That's kind of the first milestone for the implementation. Then we'll be able to list companies under the standard rules. And then rather than kind of do it all at once, where it's all or nothing, we'll then take an incremental approach as we kind of layer more standards on piece by piece. Because remember, standards set the minimum of what companies must do. Companies can still choose to do more, and I think of this next generation of companies, they're very likely to do that.
Eric, finally, Amazon is a great example of a company that is really in it for the long term. They trade on current public markets under current rules. What about people who say, hey, you're just trying to baby Uber and some of these other companies and give these private unicorns trading at such lofty levels a better exit strategy than these unforgiving public markets?
It's funny you mentioned Uber. If you compare Uber to Amazon, Amazon went public just over 20 years ago after 3 years of operation. And you think about if someone had the fortitude to buy Amazon at the IPO and hold it this whole time, think about how much money the public has been able to make from that journey. Now, I don't know what will happen with Uber. It's early days yet. But the idea that the same level of growth is going to be available to public investors for this current crop of IPOs, I think, is disappointing. And it would be better policy outcome, better for everybody, if we could get them to go public sooner. So that's our ultimate aspiration.
Absolutely. Well, it would be great if that works out. Eric, thanks very much. And so you're going to be up and running within days, or?
Certainly by the end of the year. There's still a number of steps that have to happen now.